Hi grade 2s, welcome to today's maths lesson on 2D shapes, and I hope you are all familiar with the basic 2D shapes, but today is just a bit of a pre-test to see what you actually know, and I would like you all to be able to say we are learning to identify defining characteristics of 2D shapes. So what makes a square and a triangle a triangle? What are the important characteristics of that shape? By the end of today, you should be able to say, I can identify how many sides a 2D shape has, how many vertices or corners a 2D shape has, and I can recall the correct names of the 2D shapes that we are learning about. So mostly we're going to be talking about regular shapes like circles, squares, triangles, ovals, rectangles, pentagons, hexagons, octagons, and rhombus. But I have a feeling that you already know most of these shapes, and so I would also like to draw your attention to these shapes: circle, semicircle, oval, triangle, square, rectangle, parallelogram, rhombus, trapezium, kite, pentagon, hexagon, heptagon, octagon, nonagon, and decagon. So, characteristics of shapes. Shapes can be open with a gap down the bottom here, or they can be closed. You can see some more examples of open and closed shapes here. Shapes can be two-dimensional or three-dimensional. And in today's lesson, we're going to be focusing on closed shapes that are two-dimensional. So already there are two characteristics of all the shapes in today's lesson: closed shapes and two-dimensional shapes. Before you start completing the exercises starting on slide 6, you will need to remember some interesting concepts or shapes that you will be considering. For all intensive purposes, a circle actually has 0 sides and 0 corners. The corners are obvious, it has no points, but because it has no points where two lines meet, it also is considered to have 0 sides. So just keep that in mind when you're answering the questions today. The other thing to think about is this shape here. I'm sure you've all seen this shape here, and you might have been used to calling this shape a diamond. Okay, now that we're in grade 2, we expect you to use the correct term, which is rhombus. Now, a rhombus is also a parallelogram, and a square and a rectangle are also a parallelogram. They have 2 names, but these shapes are not all rhombus. So you'll notice the lines on a square go straight across the top and straight across the bottom. I want you to think of these lines like a train track. If I extend them all the way, here I'll draw a quick picture. If I extend these lines all the way out here and all the way out here, these lines will never meet. They will never cross over. And the same with this up here. So these lines are 2 sets of parallel lines, never crossing over. That's what makes a shape a parallelogram. Okay, on to your exercises for today. In this exercise, you need to decide how many sides and how many corners are on each shape, remembering that special information about our circle. The next exercise is you just need to colour the square that tells you how many corners are on this shape. So this shape is a pentagon. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 corners. So you just colour in the number 5 here. Complete that for all these shapes here. The next exercise is just a match the shape to the name, remembering the trickier names like parallelogram, hexagon, trapezoid. You can go back to slide 3 and check just to make sure you're getting the correct answer. I'd like you to write the names of each of these shapes underneath using the T function. Then we're going on to, this one is just simply colour the correct shape next to the name. And lastly, you get to just circle or tick which of these are correct. So is this a square, a parallelogram, or a triangle? Well, it's actually a parallelogram and a square.